Maybe this summer you'll fall in love. Maybe you'll get sunburned. Maybe you'll eat way too many strawberries, who knows? But one thing that I would definitely recommend that you do is use those longer and brighter summer days to better yourself in a soft, loving way. Put your health and yourself on the list of things to take care of. I will share 8 small steps, 8 tiny practices that have a transformative impact on your physical and mental health, and that will help you do exactly that. So, you've decided to start eating healthy this summer, but your friend has a birthday and she offers you a piece of cake and you eat it. I mean, it's her birthday, right? But then you're like, well, today's diet is done anyways, I'll have some ice cream. This is called a negative domino effect. One slip up leads to another and it makes it harder to get back on track, causing this one huge negative chain reaction. But the good news is it also works the opposite way, so you can create a positive momentum throughout the day. Especially in the summer, I like waking up and trying to front load some positive habits, which put me in good mood and also make me feel like I already invested time and effort into being healthy, so I don't want to destroy that later on. I like to have a cup of warm water, which is good for digestion and rehydration. I like to either journal or read something. And also, strangely, if I had a healthy breakfast, I'm more likely to have a healthy lunch later on. Even tiny things are helpful. You don't have to have like a whole routine or anything, but just one thing, at least for me, it puts me in a good mood and it gives me this extra motivation to be better throughout the day. I feel like most of us know by now that the quality of our connections and relationships is what determines the quality of our life. There's even this longer study on happiness by Harvard University, very well known by now, that says exactly that. But also I feel like most of us experience loneliness in some shape or form these days. It's harder to make friends, it's harder to find romantic partners. I definitely experienced that at some point in my life. I moved a lot, and especially moving to London in my 30s was very challenging. I felt very lonely for a long time and I couldn't make any friends, which is why I started reading those psychological theories on how to connect with people more easily and how to create this positive connection. And one of them really surprised me. I always assumed if you move somewhere, like into a new neighborhood, the easiest way to make somebody like you would be to do something good for them, like bake them a cake. Apparently, the opposite is true. The best way to make them like you is to ask them for a small favor. This is called the Benjamin Franklin effect. And the way it works is that our brain is highly rational and it wants to create this harmony between our actions and our thoughts. So if you do something good for somebody, your brain thinks, well, you did that for them, so you must like them. They must be a really nice person. And obviously, it has to be a tiny favor and you have to reciprocate with something good as well, so you create this long-lasting positive dynamic. Very recently, I was visiting my family back home in Poland and I asked my neighbor in London to keep a parcel for me because I didn't want it lying around. And I feel like now they know that I trust them and they feel like they can ask something of me too. Also being back home in Olsztyn, which is a much smaller town than London, I feel like people do that very often. Somebody has eggs from a farm, somebody has honey, and people keep exchanging things or little favors, and I love it. I read somewhere as well that these days everybody wants a village, but nobody wants to be a villager. So I'm trying to be the villager. I'm challenging myself this summer to ask people for advice, to ask somebody good at something to teach me something. Like I asked my mom to teach me about gardening. I'm gonna ask my friends or people that I, barely know in London to maybe do an activity together. And I really feel like it can bring this positive dynamic into my life. And maybe it can help other people too, who knows? Sitting is the new smoking. Sounds dramatic, but is it really? Excessive sitting is a significant independent risk factor for many chronic diseases and even premature death. People who sit on average 8 hours per day without any significant physical activity, and I feel like that's most of us, have a similar risk of dying prematurely to people who are excessive smokers or who are obese. On the flip side, even a short 10-minute walk does wonders for our physical and mental health. It boosts our happiness hormones, serotonin, endorphins, and it also boosts our blood circulation and gives us more oxygen, which helps us think clearer, feel happier and calmer. So, no better time than summer to change this ratio of sitting versus walking. So, I'm challenging myself to walk more. If something can be done walking, I'll try to do it walking. Like, I'll watch YouTube video, I'll listen to a podcast, I'll call my best friend while walking. If a work meeting can be done walking, I'll do it as well. Also, my Italian friend introduced me to this idea of taking a short walk after every meal. And apparently, this is why Italian people stay so slim and live so long. Also, because it helps digestion, she calls it going on a fat walk. So, if you love the idea of a fat walk, feel free to steal it. And that reminds me, I better move my body and go for a little walk. There was this guy, Carl Dweck, I believe, who was a Stanford psychologist, and he was really obsessed with this question of why do certain kind of people succeed and recover from failure and others do not? And his research led him to this fascinating theory that there are two kinds of people. The first kind believes that intelligence is more or less inborn. We are born with certain capacity to do things or certain potential, and we can do very little about it. And the second kind believes that there is no such thing as inborn potential or intelligence, but instead our potential expands with our life experiences and our effort. The first kind who believe that their intelligence is fixed and inborn, they have very little incentive to work on themselves. And when they make mistakes or when they go through rough patches, they tend to interpret that as evidence of their limited potential. The second kind, whenever they make mistakes or they go through failures, they see that as feedback to work on themselves. What happens if you realize that you are a bit of a kind who believes that their potential is limited? Well, there's good news because it turns out that you can learn the growth mindset. Myself, I definitely tend to interpret all failures in my life as proof that I am not good enough and that I'm simply not meant for certain things. And the first step that I took to work on this was to recognize that I have this limiting belief and recognizing that I have a choice to work towards changing that mindset. And one thing that really helps me do that is learning new things, whether that's things that I need in my life or my work or just things that I'm curious about. But doing that helps me be more confident in my ability to adapt and to learn and to evolve. So I keep doing that. And I feel like summer is the perfect time to take up a new hobby. And that brings me to the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is the world's largest online learning community for creatives, and you can learn anything from video making, photography, graphic design, script writing. I'm currently learning Canva, again, because I want to learn how to make posters for my yoga classes, so that will come in very handy. I'm extra excited about this. And if you want to join me on this learning journey and working on our growth mindset, Skillshare has a 7-day free trial and a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. And the first 500 people to click the link in the description will get 20% off the first year on Skillshare, so get started today. So I know that I should be drinking more water, but somehow doing that has always been a challenge. And then I noticed that it's because I just don't like drinking boring water. So this summer, it's perfect time to put things like mint or lime or hibiscus in your water and make it look prettier and taste nicer. There's just so many things. I make a lot of homemade iced tea or cold brew. I'm also drinking a lot of kombucha. Kombucha seems to be everywhere these days. So many brands jumped on the trend. But actually, they started producing those fizzy, carbonated, sugary drinks that have very little to do with the actual kombucha. The real kombucha originated thousands of years ago in China, and it's this fermented tea drink that has so many good properties, such as antioxidants, probiotics, polyphenols. And it's good for almost everything, digestion, immunity, it has anti-aging properties. So I think it's really worth doing your research to find the actual kombucha. It's also very delicious. I also found it that I used to have this challenge of not drinking alcohol during the summer because it's when a lot of people go for drinks after work or celebrate moments outside, doing picnics or barbecues. What really helped me was replacing my alcoholic drinks with either non-alcoholic versions or kombucha and iced tea. And it turned out that what I missed wasn't actually the taste of alcohol, but more so the ritual of it. And these good and healthy drinks work just as well for me, if not better. So win-win. One of my yoga teachers shared with me that she tries to eat 70% of her diet local and seasonal and 30% whatever she wants. So that could be food from another country or something that's imported, that's not in the season where she lives. And I really loved that because I feel like growing up and being an adolescent, a lot of nutrition discourse focused around labeling food as good and bad, which created a lot of negative relationship towards food and really messed up with my young brain, to be honest. So this works a lot better for me, and I feel like especially summer makes it easier to eat healthier, and that's probably a good time to shift our eating habits for the better. So I love to go to the local market and look at what's in season, what's being sold, and it inspires me to buy something that looks tasty and delicious. And then I come home with my cauliflower or with my beans and I Google, what can I do with those things? What can I cook? And that makes the whole process creative and exciting instead of feeling like, oh, I have to eat healthy. That's horrible. So this summer, I'm challenging myself to eat a lot more healthy food. And right now, my mom is cooking dinner and it smells amazing. So I'm excited to take a little food break and maybe show you some Polish food if you want. Dobrze. I know a lot of these things that I'm sharing, it's nothing new, it's just normal healthy habits that I should be doing throughout the year. But for some reason I don't, so I thought, how can I make them easier for myself? Because it's summer, and I love summer. And this one is no different. I thought about how could I do more exercise outdoors without feeling like I'm doing any exercise. In my case, my favorite activities are swimming, cycling, and just walking in the forest. And it just feels so effortless. It doesn't feel like I'm doing anything. It doesn't feel like punishment. I don't have this urge to check the time or how long I've been doing it. Nothing like that. It just feels good. So I'm trying to do as much of that as I can, especially on weekends. I feel like a lot of my problems stem from being too self-centered. And obviously social media makes it easier. It's all about leveling up, especially compared to other people. And at some point I was definitely caught up in that game of almost trying to buy my way into being a better person. And maybe I was thinner and better dressed, but still sad and anxious. So that didn't work for me. And I feel like altruism is almost the antidote to that, because you don't think, what is missing in my life and what should I fix? What should I change about myself? You think, what do I have that I could offer to other people? That just feels so good. And again, I feel so lucky because there's so many opportunities to volunteer in London, but it doesn't have to be the structured, organized environment. You could just offer to help your neighbor with some groceries or in the garden or walk somebody's dog or help your parents with some chores. And again, summer just makes it so much easier to do those things. And it has so many positive repercussions for you and the other person. There are studies that say that people who volunteer regularly have lower risk of Alzheimer's disease, lower risk of premature death, and they are less stressed and anxious. And it just makes sense because for once, instead of thinking, what is missing in my life, you think about what can I give others? And there are actually so many things that you can. I know this may sound a bit woo-woo, but I truly believe that the outside world matches your energy. And sometimes it works outside in, like you wake up and the sky is blue and the sun is shining and you suddenly feel so optimistic and hopeful about everything. But it can also work the other way around. So if you wake up and you say, today I'm going to do something good for myself and something good for other people, and this will feel amazing, I truly believe this is what you're going to get. So this summer I want to say, I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to do things that will help me become a healthier, better version of myself, but in a soft, loving way, not self-critical kind of way. So let's just say that this summer, you and I, we make the most of it, and it's going to be the best one yet.